Hey everybody, Marcel Ernie Racing News, May 20th, 2023. I want to show a story here from Redacted. Ukraine, NATO continue shelling civilians, but can't seem to launch a spring offensive. And here we're looking at a picture of a playground that has some sort of shelling going through a slide, a children's slide with their caution tape closing off the children playground targeted by NATO Ukrainian shelling in Donetsk. Credit Steve Swaney. So let's get into the story here. Ukraine and NATO forces have not launched the major offensive that the West has been touting, but they have stepped up attacks on the city of Donetsk, targeting civilian areas where they have been attacking since 2014. And for a side note, for people who still don't know, in 2014, there was a coup that was propagated by the USA through Victoria Nuland. Victoria Nuland works for the US government, and specifically her job is Ukraine. And since 2014, since the coup happened, the USA essentially put in a puppet leader, which is now Zelensky, these years later, and the Ukrainian military has been bombing Donbas, the Donesk area, since 2014, which has killed over estimated 10,000 civilians, because Ukraine these Ukrainian army officials they're attacking the Russians, essentially, the Russian-speaking ethnics that live in the eastern Ukraine, because obviously when the USSR was disbanded and Ukraine was created as a country out of the USSR, and so was Russia and so forth. Obviously, there was Russian-speaking people, and then they kind of were in the East, and that became their home in Ukraine. And now they're being attacked for speaking Russian language. They made it illegal to speak Russian in Ukraine, and they want to murder them, essentially, and the Ukrainian military has doing so forth. Continuing with the story. At least 5 explosions were reported, and at least 1 person has reportedly died, a nurse who had stopped to help the shelling victims. The West keeps warning the Ukraine had better make an impressive show of a counteroffensive, but that has not materialized. They ignore attacks on the Donbas region as they have for nearly a decade when looking for this counteroffensive. The Financial Times reports that Ukraine has about 5 more months to impress the US until support for the war dries up. It is important for America to sell this war as a successful one, as well as for domestic purposes to prove that all of those aid packages have been successful in terms of Ukrainian advances, says one European official. They have used Zelensky to great effect to sell this war. I mean, obviously Zelensky is the puppet, and he's literally the actor puppet dancing in stilettos. And that's a joke, an inside joke for those who have seen the video footage of the actor dancing in stilettos, in leather, in sexual references on TV. Before becoming the puppet prime minister president. He was invited to the G7 this weekend, despite that Ukraine is not in the G7. He has not been back to Ukraine since the attack on the Kremlin.